Okay. Okay, so then let me split this in a different way,
many
because
Yonko level
you,
cats?
Zhoniin, are in the minority here, where most of the
usually
creators
am.
here believe
It's
that
fine.
Kaido is beats Saturn. And so then I proposed them a next question, which was, so if they think that, and Cole has a, we're not gonna say bias, that's a banned word here, but Shanks is kind of a favorite character. But so I asked the question: if Shanks walks in the room with 5 Gorosei, who walks out? And by walking out, I mean fight. Like, they fight, and who walks out? And so I already kind of gauged where you would answer, but would it blow your mind to know that some of these guys think that Shanks beats all 5 Gorosei?
Not at this point, after I've heard them talk for the last 2 hours. No, not surprised at all. But I do think if they all gang up on Shanks, they're for sure killing him. That's just an unfair fight. But I think it gets really interesting 1v1.
1v1. So if Shanks, you think Shanks could run a gauntlet on and get heavyweight through the
man, that's like saying can Luffy run a gauntlet on the admirals?
Okay, yeah,
I think Shanks can use 5 commissaries.
5.
It's all it takes, yeah.
I think so.
1, 2, 3,
Pretty
4.
Pretty much,
That's
bro.
it. That's
5
it.
Do the
combo.
controvery. Just
Oda-
spin around.
The
Boom.
first
Oda
time,
goes
observation
insane.
hockey is off, all right? Switch is off.
Yeah,
none of that.
he's canceling it.
That's it.
Well, it'd be crazy if Oda goes straight. He pulls a straight like Bandai Namco Mugen. Like, he hits us with the 1 combo, 2 combo, and then it's a 5
bro,
combo.
Shanks is getting out of that room, bro. He's getting out of that room.
Yes, of course.
Bro,
So
okay. For
so
context,
wait,
out the
wait,
room.
wait.
Like
bro, here's the thing.
1v5
Here's the thing
Shanks
for context. Here's the easy
Sabo,
example.
that's what they say.
Sabo
But
got out
Sabo
of the
didn't
room.
win.
No,
He
no,
ran.
Yeah,
No,
yeah.
but that's the thing. They say get out of the room. Right?
Oh. No.
See,
Parsing
walks
beats all of them.
beats. Yeah, no, because Cole is massing groups of people with the walks out of the room, and all the people are like, yeah, Sabo Wapo got out. No, Cole thinks that he squashes them like a bug. Like, that's what he thinks.
Whoa. That's a bug. Calm down. Easier, slugger. Easy.
Oh, okay. He squashes them. The bug was too. Okay.
Whoa.
All right,
Like-
let me quote New York City then, Cole. Let me quote.
Think of it like
You
a misbehaved dog.
You said Kaido would squash Saturn like a bug. Then I asked you who's stronger, Shanks or Kaido, and you're like, Shanks. And then I said, so does Shanks squash the Gorosei like a bug? And you're like, easy.
Wait, no.
easy.
No.
Then we spent the next.
We have the footage. I don't recall the word.
Oh no!
bug being
3
used here.
minutes of the 4 hours, bro. And then it was
Bro, you have the
next
footage.
time I'm recording.
Listen,
Next time I'm
Fair enough,
recording.
fine. You record. What I said was simple, okay? What I'm thinking that, because it all comes back to the same idea, where who are the people that are worthy of being the final fight for Luffy come the end of the series? And I've always said before that there's 3 cats I think are worthy. Blackbeard, who will get up there eventually. Shanks, who's already there, or Emu. That's it. Those 3 cats.
You hesitated on
Emu
Emu that night.
I mean, I'm saying, but like, can Emu defeat all 3 of the Gorosei? I mean, all 5 of the Gorosei. I think it's possible. Maybe not, but I think he maybe on paper could do that.
Yes,
so
he can.
if we get to that point, so why not someone like Shanks? Why not someone like Blackbeard, who are also, in my opinion, worthy of being that final villain? That's it.
So so
I got you above
it's like,
I don't know about
to be
Shanks as
honest.
final villain, but Blackbeard for sure.
Well,
I like getting
final fight.
the different
Okay, final
aspects,
fight
right? So
aspects.
Zhoniin, on your own, do you feel like Shanks is equal to a Gorosei or well above a Gorosei, where he could take out multiple, like running back to back to back? And then, maybe he loses by 5, but like he takes out 2 or 3. Do you think he's that strong, or do you think the Gorosei are stronger than Shanks, like individually?
I wouldn't say he's well above them. Not at all.
Okay.
But they're comparable, I guess. I mean, that's why this conversation is fun, because there's like no real empirical evidence that we have yet. It's kind of just like, well, I think this. Just Shanks is like portrayed to be ostensibly the strongest character in the series at this point, right? I mean,
Yes.
who else is more
Correct.
impressive than him? No one that I could think of. Like, Emu is built up to be the big bad, and their devil fruit is implied to be incredible, along with the rest of the Gorosei, but
True.
Shanks just, oh my god, that sequence where he goes against Kid is the craziest stuff we've seen so far. He foresees the future, then one-shots him.
And flies too. Don't
And
forget
flies.
the
Jumps
flying.
across the coastline.
Oh yeah,
and
he
gets
like
him.
he shows up in like what, like less than 10 seconds.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's kinda
He
crazy.
sensed it, flew, and then looked at
killer
them.
is the extra fries on the side.
Yeah.
Like, hey, by
So-
the way, you're going down too, big boy.
And then Heat and
Oh.
Wire went down, which is really sad.
Heat
UK,
and the
Pop,
Rubbings.
Emma.
Oh, by the way, I'm
all-
sorry, but Dorian Brogy already set up.
Yeah,
Bye,
So then,
ciao, and
my
that's
my
over.
question when people say that, right? Like I just have a weird place of where like the Garland fits in, because like is like Shanks like like way stronger than the supreme commander of the Holy Knights? Because if it's the Holy Knights and Gorosei and Shanks is above that, then it's like Shanks is beating around his like slap boxing his daddy. Like I
Hey,
just
yo,
feel like
listen.
that's not
I think
shonen.
Hey, yo.
Shanks can beat his dad.
I
Yo,
think he
there's-
can, but
Because
if
his
you're
dad's
saying
out of his
he's
prime
beating-
and everything too.
I agree that he can
Yeah,
beat
that's
his dad,
bad.
but if we're saying that the Holy Knights are here and like we're questioning Admiral level and then the Gorosei are above it and Shanks is above Gorosei, then that means he's slapboxing his daddy a little bit. You know what I mean?
Wait, hold on. First of all, love this idea Eric said, Red Force podcast. It's a funny idea. I don't think it's true,
Uh-huh.
but what if one of the treasure chests was Shanks? What if baby
He's a
Shanks was
prize.
in the tree?
He
was
should have
one-
suffocated then.
He was one of the prizes. That's kind of funny. Oh,
It'd be
God.
like Yakuza. He would
But
just be
then
like
too-
crippled
Yeah.
by the time he gets out of there.
But then also, real quick, who's to say that all of the God Knights have to be on the Admiral level or above? They can be just one or two. That's it. It doesn't have to be all of them. They don't have to be all
Okay.
Admiral Plus.
Oh yeah,
All of
It's
them
like the Straw Hats, they're not all
100% will
strong.
not be Admiral Plus.
yeah.
Because, yeah, like,
It's
How the
scary
hell do
world.
you not control the new world when you have these guys? It's like, this doesn't make sense. No matter how I
Like
slice it.
Oda would
It's
have to
because
say
they're
they're like
lazy,
have-
bro. Like they didn't
Yeah,
do
no,
anything during the
what?
reverie.
Whoa.
They didn't do anything during the reverie. They're lazy. Come on.
They're
Come on. What did we say earlier? Like they're waiting on the order.
Go
Like,
on.
like
you let
their
four
house
of these
is burning
Uber
down, and
pirates
these guys are
control-
just sitting in the toilet.
4 Uber pirates control a whole section of the planet. Why can't you guys go in there even though you guys can match? Because we're just
because they're
lazy.
insects to them.
It's
They're
like wondering why they
oh.
don't attack Luffy when they realize he had the Gumu Gumu no Mi, right? Like,
They did though.
Cole, do you look at your
but they
front
could have sent like
yard?
an admiral
Do you-
too. Like,
Cole,
if somebody
But that was
pops up in
already
the
too late.
world with the middle initial of D, I'd be like, yo, send the whole
They
force.
found out, but wait, but they found it in the last arc that he was the Nika. So that's what they said.
Yeah, but
you
they
know.
knew he was a D from the get go. Like his full
Yeah, but you're
down
not gonna
person
like.
had to be-
You're not gonna kill like every D in mass.
I would kill every D. I would play it safe. I don't know.
But Cole, do you look at
Like,
your front yard?
they
and
don't play any strategy games over
Do you
there. They,
look
they
at
don't
your
have
front
checkers
yard,
up
Cole,
there.
and stomp on every anthill you see, and like see like the ants have an
It's
entire
not like that, bro.
civilization.
It's
Absolutely.
not
If it's
like
an
that.
Admiral,
So once again, I am with my boy Sai, and we're going to be talking about Emu. But this time, it's really warranted because we finally got to see what Emu looks like and sounds like in the anime. You know, recently in that episode where he kills, or she kills Cobra. So now that we have all this information, I kind of want to go over all the stuff that we've talked about with Emu so far. Because, you know, there's plenty of videos that we've made talking about Emu. This is going to be another one. But like I said, we can go over what we talked about before and how it might be true now. So the first thing is Emu's voice. I don't want to influence
Ooh.
your decision, but what do you think about Emu's voice?
Yeah, Emu's voice, man. I love the robotic sound of it. You can't really distinguish the gender, right? Like, it's a weird mix of, like, oh, you could see a guy, you could see a girl. Personally, I would even be happy if this is their real voice. Like, even if we get the unsilhouetted version of Emu, I'd be cool if this is just what they sound like in general. But base level, though, it's very robotic, which I think makes sense, too, considering the fact that during the Void Century, we learned that the Ancient Kingdom had technology better than Egghead. So it's like, oh, like, maybe they had voice changers back then. Maybe Emu has, I don't know, some mechanical implants, you know? I think that'd be pretty cool. It doesn't explain their figure though, because they still are shaped really weirdly. But yeah, the voice is pretty sick.
I agree. It would be cool if that's just their voice and that's what they always sound like. I don't know if that's going to be the case. I mean, if they're like in their Zoan form, then yeah, sure. But base form, maybe not. But I'm inclined to think that Emu is a woman now. I mean, we've always been talking about that, at least that I have. But the voice, I think, sealed the deal. And it almost makes me think that that's why they made Emu's voice distorted like that. Because it just straight up sounds like a woman. So they're trying to like not,
Yeah.
you know. I mean, of course, that might not be the case. But I think it
We've,
is.
We've also talked about a lot of theories about Emu being Lily, even, right? Like, oh, maybe Emu has Lily's body or something of the sort. And the thing with Emu's voice, like, there's so many things you could draw from it. And another thing it reminds me of, outside of it being robotic, is that this sounds like somebody being possessed. So maybe if that's the case with Emu, maybe Emu is a woman, maybe it's a Lily. Maybe Emu's soul is possessing Lily. There's so many ways you could spin this, and it's kind of crazy because in the latest episode of One Piece, which obviously the anime isn't like quote canon necessarily, but we got more shots of their flower room, and the flowers you see in the room, it's confirmed not to be lilies, which is actually that was a big theory back in the day, like, oh, what flowers does Emu have, right?
They're
It looks more like
chrysanthemums, or however you say it, right?
Yeah, something like that.
Chrysanthemums.
It's hard to tell because it's like black and white, and the shots are very saturated. They could be that. It could be even tulips. But lilies is definitely out of the question at this point. Now that we have like more shots of the room, unless the anime just flubs it, right? There's also that possibility.
So speaking of Emu in the flower room, the size of Emu. I mean, I know it was always there, but it was made more apparent now, I think. It's very small, right?
Yeah. Emu is very, very dainty. I feel like if you saw an emu across the street, you'd probably like pick on him. You'd probably push him down the stairs or something. Yeah, emu's really small, but when they transform, they're big. They were like the biggest monster transformation out of the Gorosei.
Yeah, we could get into that now, but I just want to say that we're describing the traits of a woman here. But anyway, so yeah, you are right. Emu's transformation is huge. But not only is it huge, now it seems even bigger than what is even implied in the anime, given how big the Gorosei were in their transformed states at Egghead, right?
Oh yeah, like dude, the Gorosei were bigger than Emmet. Like in that one double spread, like dude, Emmet was like a little kid in comparison to all the Gorosei jumping off the coast of Egghead. So yeah, like Emu is a massive thing, and we didn't really get this context that well in the manga, but in the anime they showed that, in one scene, Emu's like, climbing down the stairs, you see the hands, and then the next minute when they're chasing Sabo and Cobra, they're like bouncing up and down like Pac-Man. And it's like, yo, like where did the hands go? Where are the feet, Like what is this thing?
Yeah, so the anime did it very well. Great sequence, I gotta put that out there. And still don't know if that solidifies that it's a dragon, because in the last Emu video we talked about, possibly being like a Western style dragon. When Emu does eat the fire, it still holds up. I would say it looks even more dragon-esque in the anime sequence than it does in the manga panel. But the other directions and angles that we see of it makes it look just, like an ambiguous monster. Also with its tail. It could be the dragon tail, or it could be like a devil tail, or I don't know, some kind of unique creature, but Oda doesn't really do, unique stuff like that. That's not really a knock on him. He's very, adaptive, So, given that the Gorosei are all known yokais, I assume Emu will follow suit with that to some extent.
Yeah, Oda is the type of guy that he would watch, a movie or read an article or see a cool story, and then he'd twist it and bring it into One Piece. I mean, that's true for everything we've seen, right? Even Gear 5th, Oda said the main inspiration was Tom and Jerry. I am leaning towards the cartoon devil aspect of Emu more now that we have that anime episode where they're bouncing up and down, because it does remind me of Luffy when he's fighting Rob Lucci. Luffy bounces into the ground, then he jumps up and it's just a giant head trying to chomp him down. That's kind of what that scene reminded me of, watching Emu chase Sabo and Cobra. And it's like, yeah, out of Oda's interview talking about Tom and Jerry, he said the hard part about drawing Luffy's Gear 5th fights is that Luffy is the only one doing shenanigans. He said the reason why Tom and Jerry works is because you have two of them, and they can both do the same thing. So it's like, if Emu is a cartoon devil, if Emu has, abilities like Luffy, but just darker, then I think that could fit really well. And that could be I wouldn't say one of the greatest fights in anime, but it would be one of the most unique fights.
I mean, it would be fun for sure, Toon Force people going at it in a world where only they have that ability. Yeah, that would be really interesting. But to play devil's advocate, to Emu appearing to be cartoony and devilish in this episode, while they do, for sure. And I was thinking that at first when I saw it. I was like, that's really weird the way that Emu looks. And then I was thinking, am I reading too much into it? And then I was looking at the Gorosei. And the Gorosei are similar, kind of, to Emu in this sequence, in the way that they're depicted. And I, comparing what the Gorosei's silhouette looks like in this episode to what they actually look like in the manga. And it's like, if we do that for Emu, then things are going to be drastically different,
Oh, 100%. Like, dude, all of the Gorosei looked so goofy in that episode, and even in the manga they did too, right? But the thing with the manga, at least, is that we could kind of pick out what they were. There was nobody out there who got 5 for 5, but I saw some people get like the Itsumare one, which is pretty cool. But yeah, like Bakotsu, he just looked goofy. Jupiter the giant worm, he looked really goofy. And that's kind of how it is. And it makes me wonder, since Sabo was in that room, obviously he saw what they are. I wonder if we'll ever get a scene where when Sabo meets Luffy or meets Bonnie or somebody else, he's like, hey, by the way, Emu looks like this. He could probably draw it out, right? Like he could draw word for word and description for description what Emu looks like. And that's the craziest part. They're silhouetted to us, but Sabo saw them.
So to reverse Devil Advocate, back to it supporting the devil theory.
Yeah.
Sabo says, in this sequence, oh, I didn't know I was in hell. I'm paraphrasing, but he says something like that. So maybe he said that for a reason. Oh, Emu's the freaking devil.
Yeah. He looks up there and he just sees a devil on a throne, which is very, very typical, right?
Yeah.
When you think of all depictions of the devil, he's always sitting on his throne.
All right, so in the latest episode of One Piece, we saw Luffy and the Giants fighting against the Gorosei, mainly Warcury. And we saw that really cool sequence where Warcury dark hockey blast. I say dark because the lightning is a different color. I don't know if that's Toei or if that's Oda's input, but he hockey screen blasts Luffy, and then he blows off his stuff that's a part of him, his scar, his eyes, everything, and then he puts it back together. Really, really weird sequence. We've never really seen anything like that in One Piece. We're going to be talking about that, how Luffy's able to do that, but also what Warcury says after that sequence. So this has kind of been going viral, I guess, to a degree, or just people have been talking about this. It's to make sure you will not turn back into your original form, I will chop you up. Now, you would die, more or less know what he means by this, but we're just going to play devil's advocate for the sake of this video because there are a lot of people who take it another way, and that's fine. So we'll start with the optimism first before we go into the pessimistic view of it, which is most likely what the case is. But does that imply that there is another form or a true form to Luffy's fruit? And we've talked about this before. The long and the short of it is, even without reading in between the lines, the answer is yes. But it's been a few months since we talked about it, so if you have a new take on what Luffy's true form is, or if there is another mode to his fruit, since it is a zone after all.
I do still believe that there is another form. I mean, it's so odd, right? Luffy is a Zoan. Is this his hybrid form, his full Zoan, just his human form tapping into the zone? We don't really know. And then when you are a mythical sun god, what does the full Zoan form even look like? Because at that point, you wouldn't look I feel like you'd look like something completely different. Maybe aspects of Luffy, maybe Luffy's eyes or smile or, hair, but everything else would be the sun gods. So I do think there is another form that could be what Warcury is implying here, which is very interesting because this was dropped in the anime and not the manga. So it's okay, is this something Oda added in? Do they take artistic liberties here? Because it's always hard to tell, right? Even when you hear about animators talking about Oda and his involvement, they're like, oh yeah, Oda? We can't talk about him. But it's they have a tie somewhere, so it's okay, we don't know what's what. But yeah, I do like the idea that there is a Gear 6, which ends up being Luffy's final form, especially with this final saga. I feel like that's usually how it goes, right? The MC always gets one final power-up. Look at Ichigo, Naruto, all of them. Even with the baseball bat and going all the way to when he was a kid, Luffy's always been associated with the number 5-6. It's the Japanese version of 6-7. Think of it like that, guys. And 5-6, it's he's at Gear 5th. There's got to be a Gear 6th. And as much as people meme on the dark, serious Luffy, he might actually have that. There might be a final form of Luffy that's not always laughing.
Gear Death.
Yeah, You're dead. And then Luffy locks in, his hair turns black. You know, I do think that could happen to an extent. Maybe not as like cringe as that, but it'll happen. It'll happen.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a foregone conclusion at this point. Gear 5 can't be the end because it happened at Wano, it happened against Kaido, and by the time we get to the end of the series, we'll be in the 2030s at that point. And Gear 5 will be stale, kind of the way that Gear 4 was. And, you know, as we've seen how powerful Imu is implied to just be through the Gunko form, not even Gear 5 can really deal with that. I mean, at least what is implied to be the full power of that. So there has to be like another thing. We talked about it before, the Sun God. There's nothing really going on with Luffy's form at the moment that has to do with the sun, other than him just symbolizing it. So there has to be some kind of like sun thing, or at least it would just be weird. Exactly. So it would be odd if there wasn't. Another thing is the whole about him taking the pieces of him, right? Like how they're blown off of him and he can like put his scar back on and his eyes back in, and then he can make the baseball bat and paint it. All right, this is just like, I don't want to say like literally Toon Force. I know that's the meme.
Toon Force. It's so Toon.
I mean, it is, but according to Oda, the One Piece equivalent of this is something else entirely, because Oda was actually asked like what was going on with this. This is when it was happening in the manga. But the question was, when Luffy is using Gear 5, he pulls out things like goggles and baseball helmet and bats from what looks like his Hagoromo, Japanese for like scarf, some like ethereal scarf or whatever. The rest of the question was like, please tell us how that works. And Oda just very nonchalantly is like, well, it's the entrance to Nika's fantasy. Okay, so I guess that is Toon Force. That is the Toon Force of what One Piece is. What do you make of...
Drop that answer.
Yeah, what do you make of Nika's fantasy? I mean, it's ambiguous. We're not supposed to know, but we could try to guess what it is.
Oh yeah, I just remember when he dropped that answer, I was like, yo, what the hell is this? Nika's fantasy? Like, yeah, I see it as Toon Force. Right now, there's not like an upper limit that we've seen. And then, of course, like the whole like Scar getting blown up, which they made that like a whole 2-minute sequence in the anime. It was kind of crazy. Like in the manga, it was like 2 panels, like, oh, there goes Luffy's Scar, he puts it back on. In the anime, it's like, wow, like colors are flying at him and it's slowly peeling off. It's hilarious because that's supposed to be like a Warcudi feat. But now it's just like Luffy goofing around. He's just having fun. The Warcudi thing, right? Getting derailed just for a second.
Please.
I don't know why he did that, by the way. He's like, oh, I'll show you a war horn. He does it. Nobody on our side gets hurt. Instead, Marines pass out. So really, he went negative? Like, they have people more than Luffy. I don't get it. But either way, the Hagoromo thing, this could be, I say this a lot, this could be something, this could be nothing. Like, Nika's fantasy, are we actually going to know what that is? Is there like a limit to Nika's fantasy? Is it really just Toon Force and Oda just wanted to give this answer? Because he did say, back when Gear 5 first got introduced, he did an interview with Detective Conan author. And it was like, yeah, by the way, you know, Gear 5 was inspired by Tom and Jerry. Which, you know, they utilized Toon Force there. So it's like, okay, like, Oda wants to bring that into One Piece, but will he actually explain it? And I'm not too sure. It's just one of those things, for me, at least, that's kind of up in the air. Until Luffy says, oh, wow, I can't pull this out of my hair. Then it's like, oh, there we go.
Yeah. Something to do with Nika, which we don't know really much about other than he is the warrior of liberation. So it just, at this point, he can pull from his Cloud Scarf Hagoromo thing and just manipulate it into what he wants, essentially, as well as his own body. And also, when Gear 5 was first revealed, it said it was like the power to make your imagination real. I'm paraphrasing, but something like that. So that could be ultimately what Nika's ability is. Even though Nika, if he was like a real person, like before Joy Boy, because Joy Boy had the Sun God Nika fruit, so it begs to reason that Nika came before him, then Nika had like a power pre-Devil Fruit, or at least it's implied that he did. And it could be analogous to what Imu has. Imu has some kind of crazy devil power, and then whatever Nika had was like some kind of imagination manifestation power, more or less. And that's what the Devil Fruit is tapping into. So I guess whatever the next form of Luffy would be would just be fully going into that, more so into the sun aspect of it. Also, you know, Zoans have multiple forms, hybrid forms, the full animal form, which Luffy hasn't shown yet. Even though the Gomu Gomu no Mi, it's not a traditional devil fruit. It doesn't play by the traditional devil fruit rules. We didn't know it was a Zoan for 25 years. So who knows what's going on with that. But to come full circle with this, back to Mercury, his comment about so that you don't go back to your true form or your normal form or whatever, I'll chop you up. Occam's razor is essentially that it's because when he blasted him with the horn thing and blew him away, bit by bit, he meant, okay, I saw that didn't work. I'll just slice you up because I know, you're not like Majin Buu. You're not going to come back from that. Right? He wasn't more so saying, oh, I'm thinking about the true Nika devil fruit form. I mean, granted, he had fought Joy Boy in the past. It's implied that he did. So he would know that. But I don't think that's what he was referring to. He was more so just literally saying, I'm going to slice you up so that you can't regenerate from it.
That could be it too. It's tough. I think because so many people believe that Luffy has like another form, we tend to look deeper at that line, especially since it's a line that's not like included in the manga. I think that's another thing to bring up too.
Yeah.
Like we can't compare this to anything else. We can't say, oh, it's a bad translation. It's like, no, like he's saying that here. Like, why?
I mean, we talked about this before. There is no small talk. There is no fight talk in One Piece. Everything means something. So
yeah,
maybe that's it.
He's gonna come back like 10 years later, like, oh, Gear Death is here. Mercury was right.
I hope so, man. Not Gear Death literally, but just
Yeah.
something that's not like, what I mean?
I agree. It's funny because I was trying to think like, what would the opposite of Luffy laughing would be? Just Luffy frowning or like Luffy without imagination powers? Would that just be Luffy doing the duh? Like, I don't know.
I'd be down. That would certainly subvert expectations because that's what Oda said he wanted with Gear 5 anyway. So just double down. Just make everybody just like confused. What is this? And then, there would be people like, this is brilliant. This is brilliant. I always knew it. Oda, you're the GOAT.
I like Gear 5. It's not bad, but is it
fine.
my favorite gear? Nah.
Okay, so we're going to be reacting to one of Dawn and Dusk's videos where he just straight up says that Kid, Captain Kidd, is a part of the Davy clan. The same clan that it was revealed that Blackbeard and Rocks comes from. Goes all the way back to Davy Jones, or Davy D. Jones, who is implied to be like the Blackbeard to Joy Boy, back in the day. So now we know Kid has even more significance than he already did, or at least maybe. I'm fully on board with this. And let me just point out real quick how Dawn and Dusk got to this, because we'll talk more about the little intricacies, but the main thing just simply comes down to bounties. Because that's just how Oda works. He likes to hide things in plain sight through numbering of the chapters, the titles of the chapters, and then especially like the bounties of certain characters. So Blackbeard, if you ever look at his bounties, they're always weird. It just looks like somebody like smashed on a keyboard or something. It was like, yeah, that's a big number, but it's obviously more than that. Because do you remember when Blackbeard's first big bounty was revealed post time skip? And people immediately pointed out, oh, that's the real Blackbeard's birthday or whatever, his death day. One of those dates. Do you remember that? It was like 5, 6 years ago, 7 years ago. Oda actually did that again. So in Blackbeard's other bounty, it's like in it is 476. Now, Dawn and Dusk, also known as Luna PNR, he figured out that Blackbeard was a part of the Davy clan way before it was revealed. And it's because he just read between the lines in Blackbeard's bounty. So 476 means Ya no Rei, which means, or could mean Ghost of Yona. And Ghost of Yona, long story short, is like tied to the original story of Davy Jones, like in the real life lore of him. And that's just all he needed to figure it out. And that was it. Obviously it confirmed that Blackbeard was a part of the Davy clan. That he didn't even need to go further than that. This all happens within like the first 90 seconds of his video. It's very impressive. It just instantly, he just sealed the deal for me. I was like, okay, that's it. Because this next part is with Kid. Kid also has 470 in his bounty, which is Yano Rei. Also Ghost of Yona. That's it. I'm sold. Kid is a Davy clan member. Now before we even go, he has 470 in his bounty. Or one of or one of his previous bounties before the 3 billion one.
Yeah, so Kid has 470 million as a bounty after the time skip. I guess I just never clocked it. Wow.
Yeah, I mean, why would we? We're just looking at numbers.
What do we care about this guy? Come on.
Or why would we care about like the number of the bounty either? It's like 47, that's 470, that's whatever, you know. But to Japanese people such as Dawn and Dusk, who's also like a scholar in languages, he figured it out. Yano Rei is also a part of Kid's bounty, and considering that Kid is somewhat of an important character and has been around, has Conqueror's Haki, was in that big iconic sequence back at Sabaody with Luffy and Law, who are both D's. There has to be something significant about Kid. This is it. He's one of the surviving members of the Davy clan, just like Blackbeard.
Ever since we learned that Law was a D, I always wanted that for Kid as well. You know, I was one of those guys like, oh, put 2 D's in his name and just separate it out, you know. It's Kid D Eustace, or whatever his name would be, Eustace D Kid. Yeah, no, I want him to have some agency, and then you gotta remember, right, like, Sam may even posted about it again just recently, but Kid was supposed to be very integral to the story, but Law ended up taking his spot because people just loved Law instead, which is kind of sad. The potential of Kid is, it's unbounded, man. So I really do hope he comes back as it. Of course, we have to learn what that even means in the first place, but with all these hidden names around here, right? Like, oh, Trafalgar, D, Water, Law, like that just came out of nowhere. Oh, I'm not Rox D. Zebek, I'm Davy D. Zebek. It's like, wait a minute. Like, there's so much going on with nameplay, and of course, when it comes to the D clan, even the Davy clan, right? They don't want their name out there because they're just gonna get X. So if Kid was a hidden D, and he doesn't know even, we don't know, I think that makes the most sense. And Kid is an orphan. He's got the red hair. He's got that connection to Shanks, which I'm sure we'll get into here in a little bit. But yeah, like I hope he's a D. You know, deep down, as a Kid fan myself, I wish for the best.
Yeah, I know Kid isn't like that much, and I guess that's just a part of his character design. He's very cocky, arrogant, not likable to a certain extent, but he does have like that fairness to him. He's not despicable. He's not like, you know, I just don't like anybody. Like, he will give you respect if you earn it. Like when Luffy punched Charlos, that won him over. He was like, all right, I'm on board with you, bro. You proved it. Also, they're probably both D's, and they both hate celestial dragons, which, you know, was implied from the get-go with Kid. Like, he was always talking about how the world, or the people who run the world, are awful. Like, you know, granted, most people kind of know that if you have like the inside scoop, but he probably knew it because his family came from God Valley. And also, you said about Law. We didn't know Law was a D until like Dressrosa, right? Punk Hazard. Okay, yeah, so it was Dressrosa. Same thing could happen with Kid. He'd be like, oh, actually, my name's Davy D Kid. Also, another thing about fake names, Rox, right? That's not even his name. His name is Davy D. Zebek. We know that Kid likes punk, punk rock, rocks, rock. Also, interestingly enough, their Jolly Rogers look similar. Like Rox has like that skull with the, you know, the etherealness, and Dawn and Dust said that was supposed to represent like the soul, kind of, because that's how like Japanese people like to represent souls, as like that ethereal cloud kind of with the spikiness to it.
Kind of like Brooke's soul, yeah.
Exactly. So that, I guess, more or less is supposed to mean like Davy Jones. That's like his soul, or like his will living on through Rox, and Kid kind of has the same thing. I mean, Kid's is supposed to like represent his hair more or less, but it does look similar. I do think there was a lot of parallels between Rox and Kid just through that. And how Kid came from the Davy clan, well, we just found out that there was more Davy clan members at God Valley than just like Rox and, you know, his Blackbeard and them. There was a whole bunch of them. There was even a guy with a freaking straw hat. So we know that Kuma saved 500 people from God Valley, right? It was said by Ginny or Ivankov or one of them. So he could have just been swiping Davy members, sent him out to the South Blue, wherever that he had been, and eventually they just led to Kid being born, because that's where Kid comes from, right? Katuk Island in the South Blue. That's more than enough to convince me. We also talked about like a couple years ago, Kid was like related to Vegapunk. Maybe that's not really a thing anymore, but I guess the new meta is now that he's a Davy member, which is fine. I mean, regardless, it just means that, yeah, Kid comes from something significant is what this is all boiling down to ultimately.
One thing I do want to point out too, we didn't even touch on this yet, but when we first got Roxy Zebek's design, one of the first characters that people mentioned was Kid. Because Kid has a attack called Punk Rotten that he uses back against Kaido and Big Mom. And it's like this spiky-haired skull thing. But what's really prominent about it is that it has like a lightning mark down right here. And then we get Rox, and he has that exact same lightning mark. I'm not saying that Kid knows Roxy Zebek like literally, but it could just be like a coincidence. Like, oh, look at this. You know, like the mark on his left eye looks just like Rox's mark. And it's like, wait a minute, like we can't deny that one. Like, what's going on there?
I mean, that could be his Joy Boy. Like, he's just, you know how Rox said, I'm a fan of Davy Jones. Yeah. Rox be like, I'm a fan of Rox. I don't know how he knows Rox, maybe word of mouth from God Valley or whatever. But when you said that about his design being, or the design of the Punk Rotten being like Rox, that reminded me that I was coloring a panel through ChatGPT of Rox, and it colored Rox to look like Kid.
Oh, colored him red?
No, like it gave him the goggles and it made his hair like, yeah, obviously just a coincidence, but still pretty interesting that happened. Yeah, but yeah, I mean, I guess that's it. Kid, I think he's probably a member of the Davy clan. I mean, like, do you think he's dead?
No. Kid, you know, people like to joke about it saying, oh, Kid's gone, you know, he got killed by Shanks. I don't think so. I mean, this is One Piece. I think all the Supernova are still alive, even Hawkins. I think somehow he's gonna like come back. Drake is still alive. We saw him. Yeah, Kid's not dead. 3 billion berry bounty. We don't know his origins. You know, people love the Jika no me, or sorry, Jiki. Jika is like the meme of like him being like a Sun God Nika variant.
So I don't know if you saw this image going around, but it was like from the latest chapter or one of the latest 2 or 3 chapters, we saw like close-ups of Rayleigh. I think it was the latest chapter. And his jacket that he's wearing, it looks just like Mihawk's. Like the floral pattern, it is the same. It is the same, right? It's the same. I don't want to like...
It's damn near identical.
Okay. So we talked about before the possibility of Mihawk being the son of Rayleigh, probably not Shaki at this point. We thought maybe he was the son of Shaki and Rayleigh, but now the timeline's not really matching up because he's like 43 years old. So Shaki would have already had to give birth to Mihawk at this point in the story, in the flashback, right? And it doesn't seem like she, unless there was some kind of secret pregnancy that we're not aware about, I don't think he's the son of Shaki. He could be the son of Rayleigh. Rayleigh could just be out there, you know, doing the deed, without... I don't think they had protection back in the day. I mean, maybe they had lambskin stuff, but they weren't using it. Hockey coat! Oh my god. I wish we had hockey in real life. Anyway, that's besides the point. It seems like maybe he's not the son of Rayleigh or Shaki, because we also talked about how he's very likely to be a celestial dragon. At least that's what Dawn and Dust thinks. And I'm inclined to agree with them on nearly everything. And also, it just seems cooler because, you know, I am holding that theory very close to me that he was a holy knight at some point, because it has to explain something about Mihawk. Because other than that, he's just some guy that came out of nowhere and he was the strongest. And that's actually what we're going to be talking about in this video. If he does have that same kind of floral pattern as Rayleigh and similar jacket, and if he's not the son of Rayleigh, then does that mean that maybe at some point he defeated Rayleigh? And that's how he became the world's strongest swordsman, because that was another thing we were talking about for a while. How did he become the world's strongest swordsman? Who did he defeat to gain that title? There's no answers. There's nothing. Oda hardly ever really talks about this. I really looked. And I think the last time he definitively really brings this up is in like the green data book, One Piece Green or whatever, which I don't have. I have red and blue. I don't have friggin' green. But he says it in the book that, yes, he is the strongest swordsman alive. That's it, okay? Why? Did he defeat Rayleigh? Because at some point, I guess, maybe Rayleigh was the strongest swordsman alive. After Roger died, Shanks wasn't strong enough yet, I guess, and then Rox was dead. So, in theory, Rayleigh could have been the strongest at some point, right?
Oh, yeah, 100%. It's funny. I thought you were going to say, did he beat Rayleigh and take his shirt?
I mean, maybe that too.
They have the same pattern. Yeah, he yanked the clothes off his back. Jokes aside, yeah. I feel like it makes sense for Mihawk to have bodies under him. I mean, like, let's be real here, right? Like, we don't know any other swordsman in One Piece that he could have beaten. Like, Rayleigh's probably the most prominent one. I guess you could put Shiki up there, but Shiki gets, like, imprisoned, and then he loses his legs, and then they become his swords. It's swordsman, is he not? He kind of is, technically. I just hope they don't go the Sukuna route, where they're like, oh, you know, here's Sukuna, he's super strong, and thousands of years ago in the Heian era, he defeated, like, the 4 generals and beat all the clans. It's like, okay, we've never met these guys, then. Like, I'm afraid they're gonna do that to Mihawk. Like, oh, by the way, Mihawk beat 5 million swordsmen before he became the world's strongest. It's like, who are these 5 million people? Where'd they come from? Apparently he's never been to Wano. So, yeah, like, I really do hope he gets, like, one character under his belt that we've seen before. I think Rayleigh's a great example of a character that he could have defeated. Because Rayleigh's, like, the one of the few, like, true and blue swordsmen out there, right? But the only problem is that by that point in time, how old is Rayleigh? Like, it's Mihawk just beating, like, a geriatric Rayleigh at that point, which it would be impressive still, because Rayleigh's not a slouch. But it's like, damn, like, it's not like Rayleigh in his prime, though. Like, I hope we see that Mihawk did defeat some prominent swordsmen in their prime. He really had to, like, fight for that title. And it sucks because, like, we don't see people, even today in One Piece, going after the world's strongest title, except for maybe Zoro. Like, nobody's out here saying, oh, I'm a swordsman, I want that title, I want to be Mihawk. Like, we had Zoro, Vista, like 2 random people that got one-shot by Mihawk. Like, they're not common.
You know, speaking of Vista, I was thinking about him. If he came back now with the power creep, he would be unbelievably powerful. But that's besides the point.
Okay, wait. Right now, Zoro or Vista?
Oh, I mean, Zoro. But before Zoro defeated King, Vista, for sure.
Really?
I mean, come on.
I mean, yeah, I think I just underestimate Vista because I don't like him.
Well, I mean, like, I'm just saying, like, he was pretty darn competitive with Mihawk.
Yeah, he wasn't bad.
And given what if you give the same thing to Vista that Dorian Bragi had, he's Yonko level.
I think it's because I think of, like, Marco and Jozu. I'm like, how impactful were they? Like, how strong is Vista?
He's unbelievably powerful.
I might have to, like, hold a poll, like, who would win, Vista or King or something? Or, like, Vista or Bluchi?
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's just really hard to say because, like, we're literally just going to have to give him our own power creep to adjust for it. Because,
will we ever see? Like,
yeah. I mean, I think everybody will come back at least once in the final war. But yeah, like what you were saying with Mihawk, how it might be revealed that he just defeated X-Man. Because that's what happened with Ace, right? It turned out that he had defeated the father of Page 1 and, I forget his name, but the secret warlord guy who only exists in SBS lore. Even though, like, Ace has been dead, so us knowing in the actual story itself who he defeated to become a warlord, not really that important. I guess, you know, the hardcores care like we do, so that's fine that he at least told us. But Mihawk, he's one of the most significant characters in the series and one of the oldest running characters. Everyone knows Mihawk. No matter if you're a casual, if you've just seen One Piece a few times, you know who Mihawk is. Him defeating Zoro in the beginning is one of the most significant, you know, aspects of the series. So you know who Mihawk is, and I'm sure you're curious why he's the strongest swordsman in the world, other than him just having the aura of it. So if it's just revealed like Oda's like, yeah, he defeated, X back in the day, it's not really that important. Very disappointing in my opinion. So him defeating Rayleigh, or at least somebody that we know of, would, I think, be satisfying. But as for him just randomly just taking the jacket from him after he defeats him, maybe it's not that.
My design now.
Yeah, I mean, maybe it's not just that. Maybe Rayleigh trained Mihawk. And, you know, once they trained enough, Rayleigh was like, okay, it's time to test you. And then, you know, Mihawk just beat him cleanly. And he was like, you're the strongest swordsman in the world. You have the title now. And then I guess Mihawk has, like, you know, that aesthetic as, like, representation of his master, possibly.
Yeah, that could be it. Yeah, Mihawk, he seemingly grew up as an orphan. If he even is a celestial dragon, it looks like he had a really rough life. Apparently he also worked with the Marines for a certain amount of time, too.
He was the Marine Hunter.
Yeah, he was the Marine Hunter, but before that happened, in an SBS, Oda said that Mihawk was betrayed by the Marines, which I don't even know how that's possible. Like, why would you betray Mihawk? Like, what happened there?
Did he say specifically the Marines betrayed him, or did he just say betrayed ambiguously?
I think he said betrayed by the Marines. It was, they were talking about, like, Crocodile and Mihawk.
The only reason I asked is I remember making the video about that when it was revealed, and I was trying to draw conclusions about, like, oh, Mihawk was an admiral, or Mihawk was something.
Okay. So the question says, in chapter 1058, Crocodile mentioned that Mihawk was called the Marine Hunter in the past. Is it somehow related to the reason why Mihawk joined the Shishibukai? Oda says Mihawk is a person who holds a grudge against the Marines in the past and have experienced a great betrayal.
Yeah.
In a sense of solitude, he's just like Crocodile, who doesn't trust people, and there's a part of him that's getting tired with life. Being a member of the Seven Warlords means he won't be chased by the Marines. That way, he will have peace. So that's why he became a member. So yeah, it sounds like the Marines did betray him.
Yeah. Indirectly, he is kind of saying that without directly saying it. Yeah.
A grudge against the Marines. What the hell did they do to him?
He was the Holy Knight, man.
Maybe like they killed his village or something, or killed somebody he likes. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it could go into his eyes. There's something going on with his eyes. It's probably something to do with that. Like, his eyes just aren't hereditary. I think his eyes are that way for a specific reason. It's not like Loki, even though Loki's eyes have special meaning to them. But yeah, I mean,
it could be like the Sharingan. Just like, after like the portrayal went crazy. Kind of like Dao Denjiro. He just had like black hair. He looked like a normal dude, and then after Odin died, he screamed in like a cave for like a year. Walk out with blue hair, super jacked, different face. It's like, yeah, that could happen to me.
That would be hilarious if that's what happened to him too. Just stress power up.
Yeah.
So we're going to be talking about the generational power in this series that goes back 3,000 years ago, or at least it seems that way. And what really made me think about what we're going to be talking about is the panel in the latest chapter 1162 where we see Rocks like throwing that hockey slash and it like goes perpendicular to the split in God Valley. And I always thought that that split in the pillars was made by someone, either Joy Boy, Davy Jones, maybe even Nika. And it made me think like, oh man, people were just so much more powerful as time went backwards. We saw like the hockey knot that Emeth untied from Joy Boy, and that's the strongest thing we've ever seen in the series. Even with Rocks, how powerful he is, not even Rocks is doing stuff like that. And that was just stored Conqueror's hockey. So I also saw this image here from Tony O Ho Ho, which is pretty cool, and it's just a mock-up of what the history could be. This isn't confirmed yet. We're kind of just going off of what we saw on the mural of Elbaf. But, you know, we have like the current time with Luffy and Frankie going against, you know, Emu in the background. That's, you know, eventually going to happen in the series. And then we have 900 years ago during the Void Century with Joy Boy and Emeth taking on Emu again in their hybrid form or whatever, or at least implied. And then if we go back to 3,000 years, it's implied that during that time, there was like actually Sun God Nika himself, like what the fruit that Joy Boy and Luffy have is based off of, along with his robot buddy, which we saw at Elbaf. It's implied maybe that is him. We don't know. We're just really taking hardcore guesses at this point. But they're fighting against like that demon dragon that we saw on the right side of the mural, which I always thought was like the anti-Sun God Nika, which led to the devil fruit or the power that Emu has now. The devil power. This might be the devil, like that originally existed at one point in time. So I basically just wanted to go over like, what do you think about this? And do you think as we go further into the past, the power scale was just at such a higher level than what it is now?
I do think so. I don't know if you ever watched Avatar.
Oh, of course.
When you go back in time there, things also got really wacky power scaling wise. Like, you had these island turtles, like all the primordial benders and stuff. And I think One Piece could be the same way, where we go back in time. If we ever do it, by the way. I don't know if Oda will ever show it. But if we go back 3,000, 4,000 years ago, yeah, the powers, I think it's base level, everybody's going to be like planetary-esque. Right? Because even like from the mural, we hear about like the Earth God versus the Sun God. Like, I don't think that's like, oh, just another iteration of Joy Boy or Luffy. Like, I think it's literally going to be, like, the embodiment of the sun coming down to Earth, and the Earth has to, like, bend off against it. Like, it sounds like a planetary invasion, which, you know, people might not be the biggest fan of, but we do know that pirates exist outside of Earth, outside of our orbit, because, like, we got, like, what, Enel and the space pirates, and they're out there, like, fighting demons, and it's like, or not demons, but, you know, like, weirdos. Like aliens.
They are very weird. I still don't know what to make of them. They kind of look like minks, but they're not. I don't know what they are.
I don't know what's going on with those guys, but yeah, I could definitely see us going back 3,000 years ago and everybody's like 10xing the characters we have today. That's usually how it goes in anime too, not just like One Piece, but you know, I feel like most shonen, it's like, oh, by the way, like there existed these crazy dudes like hundreds and thousands of years ago.
At the Heian era.
Yeah, with Sukuna and Hidera. You know, Naruto kind of did this with Hashirama and Madara, and then, you know, we kind of clipped them. Yeah, I just feel like this is a common trope. And it's also inconsequential to an extent, because we're not going to see them. Like, we're not going to bring them into the modern story. You know, so if Oda wants to make these guys busted as hell, he can. Because guess what? The story goes on, and we're not going to have to fight these guys. Or he's not going to have to tame them down.
But do you think that whatever happened 3,000 years ago led to the power that the characters have now? The devil dragon thing, like, just really does seem like whatever that was is like the source of the Dami Reversi, the Abyss stuff, whatever Imu could transform into. Like, that was the power that Imu harnessed it. And then, of course, on the opposite end, it's Sun God Nika himself is the power that Joy Boy and Luffy wind up harnessing. So it's like, that's all the primordial power that's just so powerful. Like, obviously it doesn't transcend Haki because Haki transcends all, but it's outside of Haki because, you know, what we saw Imu doing during Elbaf is something we've never seen before. It's like breaking the power scale, essentially, because they're doing whatever they want. They're opening up books, pulling shotguns out of them, forcibly turning people into demons. We don't even know what demons are, but she's doing it regardless. And whatever Imu can like transform into, that's something very different. It's freaking huge, at least off of the Elbaf mural that we saw. And also think about the God Valley pillar. Do you think that that was made like a split?
Yeah, it's tough, but I think I generally agree. I think all these powers that we see today, for example, I think what it could be is like the original Sun God. They're like, hey, maybe this is too much. Maybe it could even be like a silly bet, like, hey, like Earth God, we can't win today, or like this fight has no winner. Let's just pass it down to the next generation. My kid can beat yours, which is funny because like that's kind of what's happening with like Blackbeard and Ace, right? Like Rox and Roger kind of had this rivalry going on. They're like, yeah, it's just our kids are gonna fight it out, and then obviously Ace lost. Yeah, I like to imagine that's what it was like for the gods too.
Yeah, I guess now that you put it that way, it did kind of come down to the kids. It was like, because, you know, Rox and Roger were rivals, and they didn't obviously get to settle their beef, unless Roger kills Rox, but it's not going to be cleanly anyway.
That'd be so nasty if Roger kills this guy down! It's like, whoa, Roger, come on.
Yeah. I mean, because also it just doesn't seem like Roger is the strongest Rox. Rox seems to be the strongest of even probably stronger than Gar.
Took over the story like that, huh? Rox is just like the fan base for him, just they love him. And I agree.
I just feel like the series was starving for somebody like him, and I'm just glad that he's there, of course. But yeah, I mean, it was like that. It was Blackbeard versus Ace was just the current time version of Rox versus Roger, and Blackbeard wins. That is fascinating, and I guess that is the story that's being told here. It's just the future generation has to pick up the bill from the previous, and then it's like, who's gonna win? I mean, Luffy will in the end, but so far Imu has been winning. Imu's been winning for 800 years with the devil powers, and then I guess it's just gonna come down to Luffy with the sun god powers, the Jesus powers, to win. Jesus versus the devil. This is another video I want to talk about. The next break week, depending on how hyped the chapters are, I want to talk about how One Piece is just Jesus versus the devil.
I mean, that's kind of what it is, yeah, but you know, I wouldn't be shocked if we come to find out Imu actually is just another god. Deities out there, man. Some deities look kind of crazy, so.
Yeah, oh, well, you mean like Imu Narona themselves, or the power that they have?
A little bit of both.
Okay.
Yeah, a little bit of both. Because like Joy Boy lost, Roger, quote, lost as well. Ace lost. Like, I think we're gonna like learn that there's like some kind of like repeated history or cycle that's been going on. And Luffy might be the first victory for the Sun God.
Yeah, because if Nika won, there would be no story. Yeah. So yeah, Nika lost, I guess. If Nika was a guy, it seems like he was. And I think that's, before we wrap this up, I think that is the distinguishing factor between the two versions of Nika that we saw. You know, like the Nika with the shield and the sword that we saw in Elbaf. I guess that's what Joy Boy looked like when he took over the fruit. Because, you know, that's what he looks like on the mural. Yeah. Even though he doesn't look like that in, like, the flashbacks that we saw necessarily of the silhouettes, but the Nika that we saw in page 1 Mind, that could be like what Nika looked like himself, you know, the 3,000 years ago implied or whatever. Again, guys, I just want to say none of this is confirmed. We're just hypothesizing, yeah. But I think that could be the distinguishing factor behind them. Could be wrong, of course.
And they're all going to be very different people too. Like I don't think we're going to go 3,000 years ago and like, hey, here's Luffy. Like, no,
I hope so.
You hope so?
No, I hope that not everybody is just Luffy
Oh,
time point one or Alpha Luffy. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I feel like they might have like Luffy aspects, like like classic shonen protagonists. They're eating a lot of meat or something, but
And they're like,
like
laughing or
they'll
whatever.
be distinguished. It's like how Rocks and Blackbeard, they have similarities, but they're not exactly the same person.
Yeah, that's a great point because Rocks makes Blackbeard look bad. I mean, Blackbeard's still cool, but now like Blackbeard just seems all cowardly and sniveling, and Rocks is just not that.
Rocks is like fit as hell. He's got the six, just this fat dude.
He's all
Which we love
sloppy.
it.
Yeah, I still do.
Love fat Blackbeard, but at the same time, it's like, wait a minute, this is his potential. Blackbeard, come on, lock in.
Yeah, he really does need to lock in. I mean, I guess he's doing that right now. All right, so today we're going to be talking about Emu because, of course, we haven't talked about this character enough. And we got another theory about what their devil fruit could be or what their true form could be. And I got my boy Sai with me, as always, on these break weeks. What's up, Sai?
Yo, what's up, guys?
So
Thanks for having me, Zhoniin.
Yeah, anytime. Just subscribe to Sai and don't subscribe to me. You guys know what the deal is.
Or vice versa, either one.
So in
I prefer the vice versa.
Vice versa for sure, as long as it's reverse and it's coming back at you. But in chapter 185, we see what is implied to be Emu's devil fruit transformation, right? I mean, I assume that's what this is. I guess you do too. You're not like one of those crazy pedantic people that's like, no, that's not what it is.
That's their real form. They just got taller. For Emu, I know we just talked about how crazy these people are. I think there is like that 10% chance that this isn't a devil fruit because this was from 800 years ago. So I think anything's on the table. We don't know when devil fruits came into existence, but maybe this is like the first devil fruit, for example. Like I feel like there's something there, but if it is a devil fruit, which is what I'm leaning towards, I feel like we got an interesting chance.
Yeah, I agree for sure. If it's not the first devil fruit, it's at least one of them. Like, I just have this strong feeling that Emu and the Gorosei and, maybe Joy Boy or whoever had first pick of the devil fruits. Like, they even probably had something to do with planting the trees that fruited these fruits, or bared these fruits, maybe. But there's little evidence to go off of that stuff right now. But as for Emu's possible fruit, I originally talked about it probably being like some kind of, dragon or something like that. Less of like an Easter dragon the way that Kaido is, more of like a Western dragon like that we see on Punk Hazard. It could be something like that.
Oh, yeah.
Or it could be the title of this video. It transforms Emu into the Florian triangle monster. Because like
that is still unexplained. What
Exactly.
a mystery.
So still unexplained and still never addressed. Never even shown again since then. It almost makes me think that like it wasn't even something Oda really cared about. He just kind of put it there to be like, ooh, spooky, and then just like, all right, never again.
I'm not gonna lie. Back when I read that for the first time, I got kind of scared. I had to like lock my door after I saw the narrator box, and it was like, ooh, hundreds of ships disappear. I was like, oh god, mom, please close my door. Turn on my light, my night light.
So I'm glad you mentioned the hundreds of ships disappear because that's going to go into what this fruit could be. So for sure, I think that the Florian Triangle monster or whatever it is based off of the Umi Bozu, which is like a long time Japanese like supernatural folklore thing, or yokai as they say. And what this thing is it's just some big apparition type thing, humanoid in shape, usually black with like two glaring eyes, maybe could be red. A lot of artist renditions have it using or have it with red eyes. Actually, a lot of artist renditions, it looks straight up like Emu. Now, I don't know what Oda's doing. None of us can understand how his brain works, but random people on Reddit
I like the Umi Bozu theory. I feel like we're gonna have to run into one eventually. Just with Oda being Japanese and that being such a prominent thing, and One Piece taking place 90% on water, on sea, I feel like Umi Bozu is going to come into play as like a mythical devil fruit.
Yeah, I mean, why not?
Oh, yeah. Like, as far as the Florian Triangle, I got some interesting takes with this one. And the main one is that we know how Luffy is the sun god, right? And a main thematic of One Piece is Luffy bringing the dawn, or certain characters bringing the dawn. And that's like huge, it's symbolic, and it also is quite literal because Luffy is the sun god. I feel like having whatever this is, right? Umi Bozu, Emu, some strange monster hidden in the Florian Triangle. I feel like that's significant because when the narrator talks about it, they say that it's hidden by this thin white veil. And something we know about the Florian Triangle is that it's never exposed to light. Thriller bark lives in perpetual darkness. So I feel like what lingering in the Florian Triangle, it's not an ally. It's not going to be friends with Sun God Luffy. It's definitely going to be someone on Imu's camp, if not Imu themselves, or maybe even another member of the Gorosei. Because this transformation, like Umibozu or whatever we want to call this, it does somewhat look like the wacky silhouettes we got back in chapter 1085.
Now, yeah, but it's not necessarily as big as the Florian Triangle monster. The Florian Triangle monster, I don't know, rough scale, is larger than Zunisha.
It's larger than mountains in the real world.
Yeah, just rough estimate.
It's kind of scary.
But it is possible that Imu can, shapeshift, because, if you just go through the Umibozu wiki, it says that there's multiple accounts or just multiple tellings of it where it varies in size. So maybe it can get bigger, maybe it gets smaller. I mean, that's not uncommon for One Piece characters with fruit abilities. Like sometimes they can get massive, like Pika, like his fruit made him like, gigantic. And Pizarro, he can like take over islands with his ability and he becomes the skull on Hachinosu. So I don't think that's too far out of the realm of possibility.
Oh, not at all.
Let me go a little more into what Umibozu is all about. So it's like this big apparition that appears in the water if you go into its territory. So that's even more so going into Florian Triangle stuff. It's like a specific place where they usually dwell. And sometimes it can ask you like, am I scary, or something like that. That's like plays into a lot of Japanese supernatural stuff. Like it'll ask you a question or something. So that's kind of part of the course. But what it also does, it demands a barrel from you, or a bucket. Like it wants like a barrel or a bucket. And if you give it like a standard one, it's going to like scoop up seawater and then just pour it on your ship until it sinks you. So that makes me think like, okay, so that's kind of like going into what devil fruits are, the weakness that you have once you eat a devil fruit. You can't swim anymore and you have weakness to water. And I always thought that Imu had something to do with that, because they say that, or Shanks, I'm pretty sure said it, right? That the devil fruit was enchanted by sea devils. Whoever eats it gets amazing powers, but the sea turns against them. It's like, what are the sea devils? And, or just straight up, what is the sea devil if there's just a singular one? You can go off of multiple translations with that. And I'm thinking like, it could be Imu. Like Imu has like, I don't know, the sea devil fruit or something like that, because also when we see Sabo shoot that fire at Imu, like the mouth looks very monstrous, dragonous or whatever. It's like super sharp teeth. Aside from that, the way that you can like, I don't know, outsmart the Umibozu is giving it a barrel that doesn't have a bottom to it, so it's kind of just stuck on an infinite loop of like trying to scoop up water, and it gets like confused or something. And then you can sail away. So yeah, I don't know what that has to do with anything. I don't know, maybe it's a clue to defeating Imu.
No, it's definitely a clue. Because do you remember the beginning of Thriller Bark?
Refresh me.
So what kicked off this entire island arc was that the Straw Hats found a barrel of sake just floating on the ocean. And, obviously they picked it up and then Zoro drank a lot of it. And on the barrel, it actually said, offering to the sea god.
Oh.
And then we later learned that it was a trap from Moria's group, and there was no sake in it at all. And that is what alerted Thriller Bark to their presence, and then Moria came and picked them up. But that does fall in line with the lore of the Yokai Umibozu. So I definitely enjoy that. And I can see why this would make the most sense out of anything too.
Yeah.
Like the shape matches up, the lore kind of matches up. Hidden in the darkness, it matches up. And hey, Oda's Japanese, so low be it for me to say Oda wouldn't bring in Japanese mythology here.
I mean, that is very, very true. I don't see why he wouldn't. I mean, he's been doing it this whole time.
Oh, yeah.
One last thing about the Umibozu here is that apparently there are tales of them shape-shifting into a beautiful woman and engaging in swimming contests with humans. And, I constantly spouted out that I think Imu's a woman. So that, I don't know, maybe it could be something too. Also about the barrels, makes me think of Bink Sake. I don't know.
Oh, yeah. I mean, with the latest chapter of One Piece where we learned Imu's real name, like the full name, like Imu Nerona. Some people have been splitting up the Nerona part to say Nure Ona, which is like water woman, which is another yokai as well.
Oh.
So that could fit. I mean, obviously we see the obvious like narrow and like inspiration, but it could be multifaceted. It could be both. I think
Yeah.
Norei Ona could be another solid yokai.
And it just goes ultimately back to, even if it's not Umibozu or whatever, I just do think at the core of it, Imu does have the ability to somewhat control water. Like, not water logia, but like, you know, like just manipulate water if it is in the vicinity to some extent or something. So all of that I think does connect here, regardless of what it ultimately is. I do think woman, water, and then there's some kind of supernatural element to it.
Water, woman, shapeshifter. I think those are the lines where everybody's kind of at, and I really enjoy that. And a hot theory that I want to throw out there myself is that when I first saw Imu's design in 1085, the first thing my mind went to was a cartoon devil. Just when we saw that tail and just the way it's shaped, I was like, oh, okay. Like, they can shapeshift, they can do all this weird stuff. And when it goes about, like, defying logic and even, like, controlling water, I feel like being cartoony allows you to do all of that, right? Like, we saw Luffy, grab lightning when he was fighting Kaido. He rubberized it. I feel like Imu will have some sort of ability that is akin to that.
Yeah,
and
I mean,
that could
why not?
allow them to be yokais too. Like, they can be anything they imagine, just like Luffy.
Yeah, just the antithesis to Luffy. I mean, that's what it is ultimately, right? Sun versus the moon. So Imu's fruit should be the antithesis to Luffy's fruit.
Oh yeah, and there's something really interesting about like the monster, like we talked about. Like it's hidden in the darkness, right? Luffy's the sun, then it's like, oh, like he's got to bring the dawn to him, right? Give him the sun, give him the vitamin D. Same with Imu.
Give him multiple D's, to be honest. I mean, if Imu is a woman after all. But also, you're wondering, like, why why would Imu be in the Florian Triangle? And it's like, I don't know. Why? Because of the darkness. But also, a rough look at the unofficial map of One Piece. Like, you could just Google it. I don't think Oda has ever made an official one yet. I mean, if he kind of did, it would give people too much insight.
It would break everything.
But Florian Triangle shouldn't be too far away from Marishua. So it's not outside of the realm of possibility for, I don't know, Imu to just go there, I don't know, just to stretch her legs or whatever. You know, it would be different if it was like way far away. Then it would be a little harder to kind of justify that. But Florian Triangle's like not too far. So, you know, it's not too much of a stretch.
One thing that's interesting that I like to go back to as well is that Imu, being from the Nerona family, right? We don't know if they're like from 800 years ago. We don't know if this is a brand new Imu quite yet. But regardless, the Nerona family definitely came from some country, just like the Nefertari family, just like the Don Quixotes. So that means that the Nerona country is out there somewhere. And I wouldn't be shocked if it was hidden within the Florian Triangle.
Oh.
Like maybe that's where it was and then it got deleted. Or maybe it's, you know, somewhere near Navy HQ. The kingdom that they came from has to be there somewhere. It could even be God's Valley for all we know. But yeah, there's a lot of interesting things when you think about what 800 years could do to you and your family if you're the ruler of the world.
Yeah, I hope to find
There's a lot
out
of things
one day.
out there.
But
Imagine we learned it in an SBS, just the interview.
yeah, why not at this point?
He doesn't show us. He's like, well, if you guys want to know about Imu, just show up to the next interview. I got you.
But speaking of God Valley, we're going to be talking about that in our next video over on Sai's channel. So head
Yes,
over
we
to
are.
Sai's channel now, because that's going to be the end of this one. Thanks for everyone tuning in. Subscribe to Sai, don't sub to me. And also, like I said, we're going to be talking about God Valley and Figureland Garland in our next collab, which is going to be on his channel. So go check that out. And thanks again, guys. See you in the next one.